Time is now 5:30, and we will call the special board meeting workshop into order for Tuesday, June 7th. We have 4 board members in attendance, so we do have a quorum as of right now. We're expecting at least one more maybe. The first item on the agenda is public comment. We do not have anyone speaking tonight. No one signed up. So we will move to item 2, discussion possible action items. A, Midland ISD 2022-2023 compensation plan. Mr. Bailey.
President Murray, thank you, board members. The district policy EA local states that the superintendent shall recommend an annual compensation plan for all district employees. And this compensation plan may include wage and salary structures, stipends, benefits, and incentives. The recommended plan shall support district goals for hiring and retaining highly qualified employees. I'm proud and we're excited to present this compensation plan this year. And we believe that this year's plan continues to position us as one of the highest paying school districts west of I-35. And this year's plan recommends a beginning teacher's salary of $58,500 and a minimum of $13.50. And also, as recommended by the board, a 2% raise, a 2% of midpoint raise for all of them. So I will also make another statement. Appreciate the board. I've heard a lot of comments. I'm sure you may have received some emails as well. For all of our employees that received $2,000 last Friday for as far as the appreciation. Thank you so much.
We also add on a discussion to what you just said is about the mid-year stipend and end-of-year stipend for next year.
Yes, included in this in the budget, not necessarily the compensation plan, but included in this year's budget for the public and for everyone to know is that the board also has proposed a $1,000 bonus stipend, basically, that will be paid out $500 in the fall or winter, and then $500 in the summer. So for a total of $1,000 for every employee. That's on top of their regular base salary.
Board members, you had a chance to look through the compensation plan in your packet. Are there any questions?
Mr. Murray, after sitting on the finance committee, unless there's any other questions, I'll make a motion that we approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Bishop. Second by Mr. Davis. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of approving the compensation plan as presented, please raise your right hand. Thank you. It's unanimous, 4-0. The next item on the agenda is item B, job order contract for YMLA Booker T. Washington renovations. Is Ms. Spencer here?
Yes.
Sorry, I didn't see you over there. Sorry.
Good evening, President Murray, trustees, Superintendent Ramsey, Mr. Bailey, Mr. Pounds, and Mr. Dodds sitting at the dais tonight. You have in front of you the job order contract proposal regarding YWLA at Booker T. Washington and the renovations required there. As you may have seen in your Friday updates, you know that this project went out for bid. We received 2 responses to that request for proposals, one of which was a little more than 1.1 million and the other 2.2 million. It was our intention to award that bid and bring that for your approval in our last regular meeting to the lower bidder. However, they were unable to provide the bonding requirements necessary to show that they would be able to financially support the project through that process. So we did not bring that to you. We pulled that from the agenda. And we did not make a recommendation to award to the next bidder because of the difference in the proposal costs. At that time, we elected to utilize job order contracting in an effort to get a general contractor to come in and provide bids for us. The team worked together from procurement and the maintenance department to secure a job order contractor who has come back with the proposal that you see before, not to exceed. What we have seen over this semester specifically in relation to everything happening all over the country and all over the world is significant increases in construction cost due to supply chain issues, due to inflation, and then also due to contractors' inability to provide the workers necessary to complete the work. And so in a meeting recently with Park Hill, we were informed that one of the companies that they used in a different part of West Texas is now going out of business. It's been a well-known company, but just there's so many things that are happening that are causing this type of increase in cost. Scott Reed is here tonight from Park Hill if the trustees have any specific questions. This is obviously more than the opinion of probable cost that was provided to us. But again, as we've seen, inflation and supply chain issues are just causing costs to skyrocket.
Ask a question on, because what I remember with us talking about was about $850,000 as the possible cost to make the change. Between 850 and the 1.8 million, did we add anything other than the chemistry labs and bathrooms, adjustments in the parking lot?
So there are the major renovations that will be occurring are the chemistry lab and the addition of a restroom in the parking lot. There are some revisions that were required just from the city, which primarily had to do with landscaping and irrigation. And then another reason for cost increase that I didn't mention and intended to, just in costs, we're seeing concrete just be exponentially high as well. So parking lots are costing a lot of money.
When you say the city requires something, it's what's it called? Code?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's required. It's not something that they came and said, you've got to do this. It's
No,
city
it
code
would be
for everybody.
required in order for us to receive our certificate of occupancy.
Any other questions?
I guess, are we still gonna be on track to be able to open the facility before school starts?
Yes, sir, we are definitely on track for occupancy. Because of the supply chain issues, and I did mention this in a previous meeting, although I'm not sure that it was the entire board. But there are supply chain issues specifically with the chemistry lab, and because of that, YWLA will not be teaching chemistry next year. They'll be teaching physics so that we can ensure that we have the instructional space necessary, and the chemistry lab will be completed during this school year. It will not be ready before school starts.
And Mr. Dodds, you are fully capable of covering this in our operating budget.
Yeah, we'll go over where we're going to finish, and you'll see we still have enough money in order to do that.
They have a motion?
Move.
Motion by Mr. Bishop,
Second.
second by Mrs.
did.
Joyner. Any other discussion? All in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, Ms. Smith. Next item on the agenda is item 3, budget workshop. Mr. Dodds.
Thank you, President Murray, Board of Trustees, Dr. Ramsey, Mr. Pound, Mr. Bailey. I feel like we need to do a roll call with this almost around, but anyway, appreciate the opportunity. This is our third budget workshop as we are going through our budget process. As you know, looking at the planning calendar, we will have our third and final budget workshop. This pretty much sets what we will advertise in the paper for the public hearing on budget and proposed tax rate. We will do that. We have to do that 10 days before the board meeting, so we will, by the 17th, we will have that in the paper. And then, of course, we adopted the compensation plan. We'll have our final budget amendment and of our original budget, and then we'll approve the budget that we'll be looking at today on the 27th. Now, our tax rate, we will not be able to adopt probably until September because of the way that it's done now. Once our certified values have come in, that will be sent to the comptroller. The comptroller will look at those certified values, send them to TEA. TEA will look at our maximum compressed tax rate, send out an estimate on what that will be, and then come back after they've gone through the numbers again and give us a final. And then after that is when we can set a tax rate. And so last year we got that notification, the final notification on the MCR, maximum compressed tax rate on the 27th of August. So it'll probably be in September before we can set that tax rate.
We expect the values by July 25th.
Hopefully the values be by July 25th. Last year, if you remember, it was later because they cannot certify the values until they have at least 95%. That those who have protested values, they have to have at least 95% cleared up before they can certify the values.
Are you gonna go over what was in the Friday communique about the homestead exemption?
Yes,
How
I
that affects, okay,
Yes,
great.
yes. So looking at where we are right now, of course, we haven't actually closed the month of May, but we are working on that. These are estimates that we feel like will get us real close to the end of the year in June. If you look at where we are, and I was talking about, we still have enough money to cover what we just approved. This is what, so we will reduce that amount by the 1.9 and move that into the capital outlay account when we do our final budget amendment. But anyway, this is where we're looking at. Right now, our tax collections are a little lower than what we had estimated. Now, we could get a big payment and boost that back up. That could change. But right now, I mean, they have till the end of June to do so. So that could change. If that changes, that'll change our recapture. The more taxes we collect, the more we'll have to pay in recapture. But that is the estimate right now, running off a template that we worked on the last day or so. Any questions on how we'll finish out the year? And this will change, just FYI, this will change.
Is the decrease in ad valorem revenue, is that collections?
It is collections, yeah, it's, and I think some of it is because there was still some ongoing litigation on some value increases. And so as that clears up, then those become due at that point in time and done, so. But if that doesn't get collected, then, you know, delinquent tax attorneys will take over at that point in time. Any other questions? So these are some of the things that we did add in, and it's built into what we estimate of what we will end the year. As you heard Mr. Bailey say thank you, and we've received lots of emails, and we want to thank the board and the finance committee on working with budget and making sure that we could do this for our employees. It was a great benefit for our employees to get up to $2,000 and to get that on the last day, make the last day of school. And not just because kids were going to get to go to summer, but also just having a little surprise and having that ability to do so was tremendous. And thank you for that. Some of the things that we have gone through, you know, we had talked about the instructional materials license, the library books, the computer lease payoff, the buses, the work to Memorial Stadium and Legacy, furniture, and then some additional that was approved not only by the committees, the
Facility?
facility committees and the finance committees to move forward. Sorry. But those are some of the things that have been approved out of this year's budget.
Do we remember how many buses we purchased?
Well, I know we, good gracious. I asked for clarity and, now I'm not getting it. But anyway, we did, purchase 5, that had already come in, I believe, the special needs buses. Do you remember exactly, I think it was like, how much is that?
Go back one page.
So, 3 units of 14 passengers, 6 units of 78, and 3 units of butcher.
All right. I just said the buses were.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, I was clicking through there. And it is in the handout too, but. Any other? So we've been able to accomplish a lot in this year's budget. And then now, is there any other questions on how we'll finish out and what we've done for this current year? I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Bailey.
I do have.
Okay, yeah.
So if we back out the 1.9 that we're gonna spend on, YWLA, then we're left with, 2 million.
Right.
What are we, has there been a decision made on that? Are we getting to that, or?
Right
That's my
now,
question.
no, because, I mean, you have to remember, we've also taken out a little over 7.2 million out of fund balance to help fund the lighting project. It was a little over 2.8 million, and then also 5 million to combine with ESSER for the $15 million project on HVAC. And so there's still some things that could happen inside this budget, and to pull it down any further, I would
You wouldn't feel
hesitate.
comfortable.
Yes.
Right, so
Yes.
we, in terms of any additional updates, benefits, things that we can provide for this school year, basically you're saying we're kind of at that cutoff point.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Fair enough.
Any other questions?
On the chiller, the LHS chiller, was that not a part of the original budget for the HVAC?
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
That was one that I believe has gone out, and so right now, we're in the
Oh,
process
in
of
addition
printing
to
one.
what we've already approved?
Yes. Yes,
Oh, okay,
so I think
I was
we're,
just confused.
part of this is rental for one that's going on right now, and then part of it is to purchase the chiller when it actually gets here.
Okay, thank you.
The supply and, chain is devastating for all of us.
Oh, yeah, almost a year
Yeah.
For a chiller?
to arrive.
So, for item J, van truck replacement, we normally buy trucks for both vans.
This one, this was a bid that went out, and I've been working on this, because I believe this was just for Midland High,
Right.
because their truck is just not really able to go. But I do think, we can do better than that amount on a truck. We don't need, an over the road full sleeper and all that type of stuff, looking at that. So we are working with, doing something.
Let me rephrase my question. Do we own both trucks now? for the
I
two
believe
vehicles?
so,
We do.
yes.
Okay, and the trailers?
Yes.
Okay.
But were you asking that if MISD paid for both of them or if Booster
Yes.
paid for one?
That's what I was.
I was thinking that Boosters paid for both the tractors. I'm not real sure.
The trailers, yes.
The trailer.
The trailers.
Okay. You're just trying to be even, Steve.
Yeah, well, I'm just
Yeah.
curious if that was normal for us to buy those.
I know.
Routine.
Anything else? All right, I'm gonna switch and go back to Mr. Bailey and let him start his.
So, again, President Murray, board members, Superintendent Ramsey, Mr. Pounds, sorry, I was in a hurry a minute ago. But you did see on the budget for next year that's been proposed, is salary and benefits. And so we, of course, are very proud of our compensation plan and as well benefits, which is vitally important for every employee. We have a very competitive and I think attractive benefits plan. And we are self-funded, and some people don't realize or recognize that we're a self-funded school district. So every time an employee goes to the doctor, we get the receipt, and it comes to the school district. So we need a health care consultant, benefits consultant that takes good care of the school district. And for the past several years, we've partnered with Marshall McClellan Agency, and they do a stellar job at taking care of the school district. We've been able to realize millions of dollars in savings. They are very aggressive in working with insurance companies and marketing to stop loss coverage carriers. So we have Heather Reynolds with Marshall McClellan Agency here with us. She's our healthcare benefits consultant, and she's going to come and take us through the presentation, because when we start talking about more than just co-pays and pharmaceuticals, that's where I cut off. So she's going to take us through and really talk about some more information on our plan and how we're going to remain competitive and add to our compensation package. Ms. Reynolds, thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. He told me I had 10 minutes, so I'm going to go really fast because I can talk about insurance all day, which is maybe the nerdiest thing I've seen in a while. As Mr. Bailey mentioned, my name's Heather. I've had the pleasure of working with this district since 2018. Your benefits program has been wildly successful and stable over that time period, which is saying a lot through a health pandemic. So we're really, really proud of the work that's been done here and the team that you've assembled to manage that. The first thing I want to review is just a snapshot of the claims trend here at the district over the past 4 years. What we're really focusing on here is that trend line that moves through the center of the graph. You can see it is very stable. We had a few years where claims kind of upticked, and that is where you see the jagged line that runs through the chart. Those are claims by month. So we certainly have months where the health plan doesn't run as well as others. We have some chronic conditions, some large conditions, and then in this most recent school year that began, or plan year that began September 2021, we had a lot of COVID hospitalizations that hit the plan really, really hard. But overall, the plan has run very well for 4 years. The blue here in the background is your health plan premium, and I just want to point out that when this chart began, which was May 2018, your health plan premium per member per month ran just under $400. You come all the way over here to April of 2022, we're in the same exact spot. You guys have done really, really well managing the plan, being proactive, and I know that I may not look real aggressive, but I do have fun being aggressive with insurance companies.
So what was the real high spike that's about to come in the middle?
This right here was 4 large, what we call shock claims. So there was a claim of $232,000, $180,000, $172,000, and $157,000 that all hit within about a 2-month span. And those were a mix of cancer diagnoses and those types of claims that you can't control, and you're glad you have insurance when they happen. And then you'll notice down here is where we see COVID and the claims kind of fall off the cliff, and then we bounce back and back it out a little bit. But all in all, the trend line, that's why we like to look at a 4-year average, so that we don't panic too much when the claims are real high, and we don't celebrate too much when the claims are low. So moving into this year's stop loss renewal, as Mr. Bailey mentioned, the district is a self-funded health plan, meaning that you are covering the majority of claims that are processed and incurred by individuals, but you do have a ceiling. So we help the district find the best price for insurance for any claims that exceed $290,000 for any employee, spouse, or child on the plan. This year, we got a pretty industry standard, I'll say, renewal of a 10% increase. That's noted down here at the bottom. There's a lot of pieces that play into it, but overall, it was a 10% increase, which is about $2.5 million, which is sad that that is industry standard, but that's where we started. We went through a process of looking at the markets and negotiating with different stop loss carriers, and we were able to have the same contractual pieces of the plan. So your specific deductible, that liability remains the same. All the underlying contractual provisions of the plan remain the same. But by moving over to Optum, we were able to reduce the increase to a very minimal 1.5%. So that's made up of fixed cost savings of about 112. Claims costs, we negotiated almost $2 million off the renewal. So that came in very favorable at the end of the day. The budget increase, or the liability increase rather, is about $380,000. Good news is we found ways to compensate for the $380,000. Blue Cross Blue Shield, and I should mention that on this page, this is behind the scenes. The employees never see any of this. This is just the insurance on top of the insurance plan to protect the district. Blue Cross Blue Shield is still the administrator, they are still the network, they're still the ID card in employees' pocket. So employees don't ever see any of this on the backside. Blue Cross Blue Shield also provides the prescription drug benefit. And so we did go back pretty hard at Blue Cross Blue Shield on their pricing for prescription drugs. And we were able to, this is kind of the iterations of how that renewal went. But if you look here at the claim amount paid this year, pharmacy claims are running $6.4 million. Our pharmacy team was able to negotiate that down to $6.2 million for the next 12-month period. Member costs you see here is the same. And the reason that's important is because we are not proposing that we save money on the pharmacy plan by charging employees more. Okay, that's not the intent. We don't want employees to be impacted. We just want Blue Cross to get better pricing. We also negotiated some additional rebates from the pharmacy benefit manager at Blue Cross Blue Shield. So overall, we're expecting the next 12 months that the district will pay $750,000 less for prescription drugs than we did the past 12 months. So we're really excited about that. Again, because those savings are achieved through reduced pricing and increased rebates and not through disruption to employees, not changing the network, not changing the formulary, and not increasing their prescription drug copays. So again, totally behind the scenes, pure savings to the district.
Heather, if I could just stop you there before we go any further. So therefore, when we receive emails in regard to increases in, in benefits, we receive a raise, but there are increases in benefits, you can see from the information that we really are trying to keep things stable. So that's not the case.
So really, how much do our employees pay for that,
Or
insurance coverage?
we have a plan that is $0.
Oh, okay, thank you.
The district
bring
covers
that
100%.
Yes. This is the budget. So our actuarial team tracks this every month for the district. Over here on the right-hand side, the orange line going across is the budget on a monthly basis. The bars there are the claims paid. Is the dark blue section. The fixed cost is that insurance premium payment, the stop loss payment. So you can see this year has been very favorable. Even though we have had a lot of COVID hospitalizations, most of those hit in those first few months of the plan year, and then things have really calmed down since then. If you look over here year to date at the claims compared to the budget, you can see we're running about $1 million below what was budgeted for this plan year. So things look very well. This is their executive summary. We did have them highlight what was really important in colored lettering. So right now we're running 7.3% under budget. We're projecting, because at the end of the plan year, more claims tend to hit the district because employees are making their way through their deductibles. So the district will take on more liability. And also school districts have a lot of claims in the summer. That's typically when employees schedule elective surgeries. So we're expecting the plan's actually going to end 4.6% under budget. That being said, just by nature of healthcare costs going up, prescription drugs are not getting cheaper. And as we age, we tend to add 1 or 2 prescriptions, maybe have an additional health condition that we're managing. So our actuarial team suggested an increase of 2.2% on top of the current budget. The good news is we're not anticipating asking for more money, because there's likely going to be a fairly sizable surplus at the end of this plan year that can just roll to cover that suggested increase in funding next year. That on top of the pharmacy savings, that $750,000 in pharmacy savings that we were able to negotiate. There's only one plan change. There's right now 4 plans that are offered to employees. One of the 4 plans has very, very low enrollment, only about 100 employees enrolled in that plan. That plan, the benefit and the price of that plan didn't make a whole lot of sense, which is why it's not very highly enrolled. And so we're going to recommend not offering that plan any longer. It is a little out of whack pricing wise. It's costing the district more than it should, and employees still have 3 really good plans to choose from. So that's the only change to the benefit plan offering for plan year 2022. We're not recommending changing any deductibles, any out-of-pocket maximums, office visit copays. The only thing that will increase slightly is the emergency room copay, and that's just to try to drive folks to use urgent care facilities, primary care physicians, and telemedicine, because they are significantly cheaper than services in the emergency room. Bullet point number 3 is really impressive. The district will continue to have a free medical plan option for employees. 20 years ago, that was the norm, and it is certainly not anymore. So you guys are in a very, very minority there. We're excited to continue that for another year. Those with employee-only coverage on buy-up plans, if they're not on the free plan, will likely see a decrease in their payroll deductions as well. But conversely, because there is higher utilization for dependents, there's a little bit of an increase in cost this year for those who are covering family members, and I included here some data so you know why that is. For plan year 2020, claims per member per month for an employee ran $559, for a spouse $688. The plan year before, you can see employees ran $531, spouses ran $755. So spouses tend to be a big cost driver on health insurance. And so we're really working to try to get the plans more in line with the utilization. Employees are not our cost drivers. We would like to make the plans more affordable for employees. Any questions on medical? Dental's really, really quick, so I'll stop and. Dental plan, the district has for a number of years had an indemnity dental plan, which means there was no network. You can see any dentist that you like. The pricing on that plan has just become a little bit antiquated. Blue Cross has a traditional PPO network style plan that is going to lead to a couple $100,000 in cost savings for the district as well. So we are going to move that direction. If employees elect to see an in-network Blue Cross dentist, or perhaps they're already seeing one by chance, they will have an increased benefit for preventive care. So they'll see 100% coverage for preventive care, which includes services like evaluations, cleanings, fluoride for kiddos, x-rays, all of that good stuff. If they continue or elect to see a dentist that's out of network, the plan will work exactly like it does today. So nobody is harmed in this process, but there is an opportunity if employees will see in-network dentists that they could have even better benefits than they had before. The dental plan is intended to be a voluntary plan, which means it's intended that the employees pay for the coverage. Right now, with the payroll deductions for the dental plan, the plan's running a little bit short, so about $178,000 short to cover the claims. Therefore, we actually have the opposite problem on dental, that children cost more on dental plans because they tend to have more services. They also qualify for the orthodontic coverage. So on the dental plan, we're proposing that the employees pay a little bit more for children and family coverage, which will make up the shortage going forward. Hopefully, the benefit change where preventive care is covered at 100% will offset any more that they're paying out of their paycheck. So that's it on dental, pretty easy. Any questions? Anything I can answer?
One thing, this is the third budget workshop that our team, and we've met probably once a month the past 3 months, just because as Renewal, with their insurance companies, they wait and they want to get the last bit of information. So some of this is just right off of the press, basically, because we've just received information last week or so. So we will include all of this in your Friday communique this week so that you can have.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Might need to get you to negotiate my gas bill.
Right.
Moving into the budget workshop for next year. I'm not going to address everybody again, but glad everybody's still here. As we look at our property values, we did talk a little bit about property values last time and what has happened. You know, in 1920, we had a large increase. That's where the form of transition grant came in. That's when House Bill 3 came in. That was one of the reasons that our form of transition grant at that point in time was elevated above everybody in the state, because nobody in the state had values that rose that high. Last year, 2021 was a small increase. Then last year we saw a decrease, which happens generally only in the oil and gas industry areas. Most see a steady 4 to 7% increase each year. Now, if you've seen some of the newspaper articles, some of the counties around Austin, a lot of counties around Karen are having huge increases in their values this year. So we're not alone. Moving into our current year or for next year, our 22-23, our estimate, when we talked about it last time, it was at 43 billion. But then we had an election that one of the proposals was to increase the homestead exemptions from 25,000 to 40,000. And I've never seen one of those not pass. Everybody wants additional exemption to lower their value on their homes, which a lot of times will decrease the amount of taxes that you pay. In doing so, on our side, it will lower the values. And so what you're seeing here is we had a value decrease once the 40,000 was MCAD put that in their system. So that decreased almost $500 million in values for the district. Now for Midland, on the M&O side, that means we probably will pay less in recapture, because if we're being taxed at 43 billion, everything would probably go back to the state that is over this amount. Now, this amount is still an estimate. We will get certified values, hopefully July 25th. And at that point in time, I have a feeling, if you remember some of the graphs we've had before, that number is usually higher than what the April estimate is, because they have more numbers as far as our minerals, and then also the reappraisals are in and that kind of stuff. Now, protests will be happening real soon. And so as those protests work, we will start getting additional updates on where our values are landing. And so anyway, but it's a great thing for homeowners that they receive an additional $15,000 in exemptions, even though for us, it will lower the values. Now, on the INS side, that will also decrease the values. And so per penny of tax, what we would have seen at 43 billion, it will be lower on what we can reduce debt from. So we'll talk about the debt service budget here in just a little bit, but those are where our estimates are right now. Any questions on values?
But we would still trigger that compression of the tax rate with the,
Yes, yes.
even with the home
It's
exemption.
anytime we run over about, in our templates that I work, anytime we're running, we're going to have 5% increase.
You're gonna see that.
You're gonna see the compression. Being this large of an increase, we're gonna compress
All the
to
way
the floor. Yes. Yes. Or right there.
I didn't know if it would be enough to.
No,
Sounds like
no,
it's
it's, no, our tax rate, as we go through the tax rate here in just a few minutes, it will compress where we were.
Where we were expecting.
Yes, yes, yes. So, one of the things that we also do is we're one of about 180 school districts that do this. We still have an additional homestead exemption, optional homestead exemption, that reduces our values even further because of that exemption. And doing so, that is not recognized by the state. So they gave us about a 3-year reprieve on that. That'll be something we'll try to argue in the legislature. Probably won't get very far on it. But that is something that we, as a district, have decided for probably years past, that we're going to give our homeowners an additional homestead exemption. So,
How much is it?
I want to say it's 10%, but I can't remember exactly what it is. I'm sorry, I'll
Sorry,
get that for you.
I interrupted you, I thought.
Yeah, but it is something that some districts have taken that away and gone back to just the regular homestead exemption that is allowed by the state. But we do that. We did it at the district in Alpine. We had that also. But it is something that we do for our taxpayers and our homeowners that a lot of people don't realize.
So because the state, I'm just trying to understand. So because the state doesn't recognize it, even though we allow for the exemption, we're still paying on the full collections.
We're
But
still
we're
paying on
pulling
full
out
collections. Yes.
that exemption. And so
Right.
we're still paying our recapture on the bigger number.
Yes, based on what just the 40,000 exemption would be and not the additional, but they will not recognize that in our property value.
So if we were to pull that out, that would be significant, or not?
It would be, but I think if you was to pull it out, there's not only with our local community, not like that, the state even urges you, even though they don't give you credit for it, that you don't do that.
Well, I only ask because I know that we're staring down this fiscal cliff
Yes.
in 24, 25, and trying to understand if there are any flexible options out there.
I would say that would probably be the last resort.
That would be the last.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that is something, like I said, there have been some districts that have gone and voted to get rid of that.
So I had a quick question. So obviously you know, that the homestead exemption of the other 40,000 was, I mean, it's about $3 billion.
No, just a half.
I mean, $500 million here for.
Almost, yeah, it's 483 million or something like that.
I mean, obviously that when you do away with it here, I mean, where, is there some plan to make it up somewhere else and? or is it gonna be
No,
The legislation portion of it?
that will be made up through the state revenue. So, I mean, they are the one that the legislators came up with a plan to increase the homestead exemption based on what they have in their budget to take care of that. And so there is, there will be some additional homestead exemption relief given by the state. Now, given our property values, we may not see much of that. We don't hardly see anything when the last time they had extended that. So we may not see much. I mean, maybe $40,000, $50,000, which doesn't make up anything in a $400 million budget. But it is something that some districts will receive because of their funding. They will receive a lot more hold harmless on the additional homestead exemption that was offered by the state that passed.
Okay.
Anything else on values? And I'm really hitting on this because it has to be part of my first report. As we look at our current assumptions on our budget, you see where we are in our current rate of 91.34 plus the 4 golden pennies. And then our total M&O tax rate of 95.34. Our current INS rate is 7.02 for a total rate of $1.236. If you look at what we're looking at, and you talked about the compression of the tax rate, you're looking at almost 11% compression of the tax rate. So from 91.34 down to 84.6, which is a great benefit. Not only do our taxpayers get a benefit of an additional homestead exemption, now they get a benefit of a decreased tax rate. And so, and we're not going up to the 5th golden penny like we could. We're going to leave that at 4. So our total M&O tax rate would be estimated at this point at 84.46 cents. And then we will look at keeping the current INS tax rate at 7.02 for a total tax rate of 91.48. We've talked about, any question on that? I just want to drive home nearly 11 cents decrease in tax rates. And so not too many taxing entities will ever decrease the tax rate like that. So also, we had talked about our attendance and where we're at, the TPAR and where we're at, where we're finishing at 90.17. What we're estimating on our attendance, our property values that we've already talked about. And so those are our assumptions that are going into the 22-23 budget. And this is where we're at. And so from budget workshop 2, when we had the decrease in the property values, you're going to see a decrease in our revenues. So our total budget is going to change, which you'll see the almost identical decrease in recapture. So that's how closely our recapture follows with our revenue, our tax revenue. And so as we go through this, we're looking at a $437,564,221 budget as of today. That could change by the time we get to the board meeting to approve the budget. But these are some of the things that if this fluctuates, our tax revenue, recapture will fluctuate just along with it. That's just where we're at. Any questions?
What was that $7 savings we have on campus?
Well, yeah, that's a large campus deal. I'm sure coffee won't be served on my table. Yeah. Yeah. Surely I could have come up with a little better plan. So anyway, any other questions? Just some of the district highlights, and this is what Mr. Bailey talked about, increasing our teacher pay to 58.5, increasing the support staff minimum to 13.5, and a 2% midpoint raise at that point. The new positions and staffing matrix, the staff retention incentive that was discussed by Mr. Bailey, that will be paid out in roughly December in June of next year. And then I didn't have the plan that was Heather just produced, so this will come over here and be 0. So, which is great. You don't ever see that too much. So, any questions on the highlights? Looking at this, y'all are required to approve 3 budgets. 1 is general fund, 2 is the child nutrition budget, and then the debt service budget. So if we look at the child nutrition budget, this is where they are currently. This is what they're proposing over here, a $14,123,910 budget. And it would be a balanced budget. Any question on child nutrition services?
Mr. Russ, can I get you to go back 2 slides?
Sorry.
So
I thought I had a quick question. I didn't.
the question on partnerships and your expenditures, those are the 1882 schools.
Yes,
And so that's, basically, that number would be in our salaries and benefits and other areas. Because we're getting the revenue up here, that shows, because there are students, we have to pay them to these other entities that are teaching those students.
yes.
So
Yeah.
where-
Now, some of those already, they have their salary and benefits already on their own. And
Right,
so this is matching what they generate in just local funds like we would, plus the $1882. That would be their total budget amounts.
So if we didn't have any 1882 schools, that 37 million would be spread somewhere else because we would be
Yeah.
educating those
Right,
students.
right.
well, and the only reason I asked that is because.
Kind of, sort of, not totally, but
Because there are additional dollars.
because there's additional $1882 on top of that.
The revenue, though, from like this past year in 21, 22 for 1882 was right around 8 million.
Right, which is,
So where is that included? in the revenue?
it's included in this number right here, this 70
In the
million.
state revenue?
Yes, yes.
So if you're looking at, we're netting, I mean, we're getting 7 million back or 8 million back for those partnership schools, and then, but we're still paying. I'm just trying to understand.
The 7 million is additional 1882.
Yeah, I knew that. And
And
then,
that flows into those schools.
Schools
Now,
directly.
that we receive some of that benefit back in capital.
but we're not necessarily using those funds to pay this 37 million. I mean.
Yes,
We are, okay,
yes, yes.
all right. So I'm just trying to understand
Right.
the partnership piece. And I know that it doesn't cover the cost of our schools because there's still schools in district, our revenue from 1882.
Right, no,
Plus,
it
but
goes towards those campuses that are Senate Bill 1882 school partnerships.
But then we're paying the salaries of the campuses that where there are
We are
employees.
deducting, that's why their budget is here, because we will deduct that out of that amount that they are generating. So, so let's say their total budget was $3 million.
Like one school.
One campus,
Okay.
$3 million. The salaries on that campus is deducted out of that $3 million. And then just like us, the rest of it is used for supplies and different things that they are ordering, whether it be technology, whatever. That's their total amount that they generate. And so the 1882 part is just additional funding, but the rest of it, just like us, they generate for the same amount of revenue per student, just like we do.
Okay,
But they are fully paying, so they may come out of our salary, we may pay them, but we deduct that out of their amount that they're
Campus,
receiving.
yeah.
Yes.
got it. Okay, thank you for helping me. better
Yeah.
understand.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
I was gonna have to, on child nutrition, but I don't even. Is there, is there any more funds that we're gonna receive to allocate for food nutrition for, I know we had talked about this deal, I know we talked about it several years now, but, there's a certain income to be considered free and reduced lunch. And that income obviously makes sense potentially somewhere else. It doesn't in Midland, Texas, because,
We're, right at 50% free and reduced meals here in Midland, so that's a very high number across the state. But it is one of those things, we are coming off really free lunches for students, the summer seamless program that was a federal program.
yes,
So we'll be going back under the NSLP and the school breakfast program, where students will have to start paying and different things like that. So as we go, and this is a great time to plug that we need to have all those income forms filled out that was normally done before, because that we need to make sure that all of our students who are in that program, make sure they stay in that program and don't come out, since it was a free meal for the last year or so.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is that and once again, that amount, it doesn't make sense in Midland, Texas, because it actually, there should be a correction, just like taxes and so forth, because, that we are, I guess, considered property rich district, but, not everybody in this district is property rich.
Property wealthy district is only property value. It doesn't mean everybody living in that property is wealthy. I totally understand that.
And then, so we've discussed that, but I guess there's been no change in the fact that there should be some correction, in other words, to include a whole bunch of the people that are still, in my view, considered free and reduced lunch.
It is, and that's part of filling out those forms to make sure, because if there was something that, families their dynamics have changed over the pandemic and different things have gone on. And so that is one way to make sure is if they have filled out those forms, that they would qualify for that free and reduced program. And that is something, you're exactly right. There are things that have changed in Midland over the past few years that people's revenue may have changed or however. So those are vital, and it's not only just vital for that program. There's several other programs that gets tied to the free and reduced meals, but that is really one of the most important things is them filling out those forms to make sure if they do qualify, that they're getting that benefit.
But there's no adjustment, in other words, we're treated the same, if you live in Presidio, Texas, or you live in El Paso, or.
No.
We have a higher cost of living here.
Yes.
But it's a federal program.
Yes.
So it's they're federal levels. So there is no differentiation, yeah.
So there's nothing from the state either, that you can say, hey, the state's willing to cover X. Okay, well, I thought I asked this.
Yeah, no, that's great. Appreciate the question. Any other on child nutrition? As we move into the debt service, we're looking at, this is our debt service budget for this past year. Keeping the 7-cent tax rate, one of the things that I'm wanting to do and feel like it's the appropriate thing to do is keep that tax rate, because we are giving nearly 11-cent decrease in M&O. We have bonds coming due in 2025, about $25 million. And so what I am proposing in this budget is to leave the tax rate there. We will set up an escrow, and it'll be something that the board will have to do. They'll have to vote on a resolution to do this. And because we have an additional 25 million coming that we can go ahead and pay down in 2025, I think it's series 2015 series. Looking at what bond rates are doing right now, they are above where some of those rates are set right now. The rates on those bonds that we'll be able to pay off are like at 3. Bond rates right now are running over 4, and I don't know where they're going to stop right now. So it would be, if we had to refinance it, we would be looking at refinancing at just like a mortgage, refinancing at a higher rate, which could increase payments, increase the tax rate to make those payments. So if we leave it at that level, we would set up an escrow for our bonds for setting in trust. And when that is done and when it's able to, the bonding agent at that point just pulls that money straight across and makes those payments at that time. So we actually don't hold that. That is actually set up in an escrow for that specific purpose. And we'll probably look at the same thing next year to pay for the 2025 year. What's that? And, just doing that is about a little over a $4 million savings in additional interest at that point. for future interest payments.
This has been approved by the finance committee.
Yes, this was approved by the finance committee to move forward on that. And there'll be some more information on this as we move forward towards the tax rate and later on in the year. Any questions? Well, that's all I have for the third and final budget workshop, and I will try to be a lot shorter winded when we look at the, we'll go through the budget hearing and then look at approving the budget on the 27th.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Dodds.
Yes.
The time is now 6:30, and the next item on the agenda is closed session in accordance with Government Code Section 551.076 to deliberate the deployment or specific occasion for implementation of security personnel or devices, or deliberate security audit. And number two, Code Section 551.089 to deliberate security assignments or deployments relating to information resources, technology, network security information as described by Section 2059.055B for the deployment of specific occasions for implementation of security personnel, critical infrastructure, or security devices. Absolutely. We don't expect anything coming out of closed session today, so we appreciate you being here. We'll move into closed session at 6:31. The time is now 7:26 and the board is emerging from closed session. There are no other items for action on the agenda and we are adjourned. Thank you.